All right, welcome to Pros and Cons with Ethan and Michael. I'm Michael.
I'm Ethan.
And today we're going to be talking about the pros and cons of vaccinated versus not vaccinated. So I guess we'll just start off with getting your general opinion. So what do you feel about mandatory vaccinations?
I think they're unnecessary. I think that no family should be forced to vaccinate a child if they don't want to.
Okay, well, in what case is it okay to not vaccinate your child?
I think there's many, but the two that come to mind are in cases where religious beliefs are involved, such as Judaism, or monetary reasons they can't afford it.
Okay, I'll go to the affordable vaccines later. On the note of religion, what religion are you not allowed to be vaccinated in?
I'm not positive, but I believe Judaism, children, and anybody believes, along with the Judaism beliefs, that they believe that you shouldn't inject yourself with any unclean thing or drink any unclean thing. Not to say that vaccinations aren't necessarily unclean, but still an injection.
Well, see, with that, it can be argued that that's the old school law in the Old Testament, so that vaccines weren't a thing back then, obviously, so who's to say if that's considered under the belt of unclean? But also, I Googled this earlier. According to this Jewish Health Forum, it's actually, they very much support vaccines.
I did not know that.
Yeah. So do you think that if a child is not vaccinated, do you think that they should be allowed in public school?
I think yes. I think it would be unfair to not allow a child who has not been vaccinated by their parents' decision. They should still be given the opportunity to go to public school and get their education.
Okay. But did you know that when a child receives an illness that could have been prevented by a vaccine, it actually mutates in their body, and it becomes a different strand of that illness that isn't covered by the initial vaccine?
So you're saying if my child goes unvaccinated, let's say we were missing the polio vaccine.
Mm-hmm.
He goes unvaccinated, he catches polio, it develops into a different type of polio, like a stronger strand?
Not really a stronger strand. It's just anytime you get a common cold or any type of illness, it mutates in your body. So it's not just the initial polio strand that you were vaccinated for. It's a different one that it can't be prevented after that by a vaccine because we don't know what it is really.
Okay. I didn't know that.
Yeah. So with that being said, if you believe that children should be able to go to school and not be vaccinated, why is it fair that students can't bring in snacks containing nuts if both could risk an illness?
Well, the allergy to nuts is much more... It exists a lot more than polio does.
Well, for now.
Okay. I think that, speaking from my own experience, we had a student that I went to school with that did have a very serious peanut allergy.
Mm-hmm.
So, of course, we had to take our precautions, but we were still allowed to bring in, if I wanted a peanut butter jelly sandwich, I was still allowed to have a peanut butter jelly sandwich as long as I didn't spread.
Well, the point that I'm making is if, let's say, there's one student that has peanut allergy at the school, that's not contagious. An allergy isn't contagious. You can easily prevent that by not bringing in snacks and stuff. You can also easily prevent these illnesses that isn't an allergy. You're not born with a disease like polio. You get it. So if you could easily
So what you're saying
both.
is that I see what you're saying, where an allergy can't spread to other children, but a disease can.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I would have to say that they should both be restricted.
Yeah, I think they should they should be equally restricted, seeing that vaccines can prevent global outbreaks, not just a peanut allergy.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, there's my part.
Okay. Well, let me get into. I got a few questions for you.
Okay.
Going back to what I kind of said earlier, where monetary reasons, if families can afford them, do you think that vaccines should be provided for families who cannot afford them?
Yeah.
Okay, and how would you do that without spending more taxpayer money?
Well, I think healthcare should definitely be a much larger. I'd say healthcare is probably the largest issue in terms of the whole taxation thing, and I fully support my tax dollars going to help prevent things that can be prevented in children that can't afford it.
I would have to agree with you. Do you think people's if there are people out there whose religious beliefs interfere with vaccines, do you think that they should still be required to receive them?
Well, like I said earlier, there's not really religions that actually disagree with vaccines, and I honestly, if you really think about it, the only people who really say that aren't actually those religions. It's more of just like a cover
more
for
of assumptions by other people who aren't involved.
Not even that, but it's just more a reason that's not theirs to not vaccinate.
Okay. So, let's say in some rare occasion that there is somebody whose beliefs do interfere. Do you think it's unconstitutional for the government to force those people to receive vaccines against their will?
I don't think they should be forced, but if you don't want to vaccinate your kid and put him and make him be a risk to the rest of the students that he would be interacting with, I don't think you should be allowed to go to public school.
I would have to agree with you because it's your choice as a parent whether to vaccine your child or not.
Mm-hmm.
Other parents who have made the choice to vaccine their children.
Yeah, it's not their choice if your child gets vaccinated.
Exactly. So why run the risk of your child spreading it to hundreds of others?
Mm-hmm.
So I would have to agree with you there. Recent studies show that vaccines may lead to a higher risk of miscarriages. Should young women still be required to receive them?
The studies show that getting a vaccine when they're pregnant can lead to miscarriages.
Well, there's not a lot of young women today that are getting vaccines whenever they're older, near the age of where you can conceive. But as like little children, they're saying that even then, it can lead to risk of miscarriage.
Well, there's no way to really test that. There's no way to test that and get proof, because how are you going to say if you vaccinate a girl when she's born that if she has a miscarriage when she's 20, it's because of that vaccine? There's no way to make a correlation between that.
Yeah. Some studies also show that receiving vaccines can raise the risk of catching the common cold. Should children still be required to receive them?
Yeah, because polio or smallpox is much worse than the common cold. Common cold can be treated with over-the-counter medicine in a couple of days.
Yeah.
I would much rather get a cold than get smallpox or some other crazy disease.
Yeah, I would have to agree with you. Recent studies show that the common flu vaccine can lead to the early development of Alzheimer's. Do you think that they should still be administered?
Yeah. Mainly because the research that's been presented also shows that it's honestly more rare for that to happen than actually getting that disease.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's just a weird outlier that it can happen. It can lead to early development of Alzheimer's, but it's so rare, like extremely rare.
Okay. So in conclusion, I would have to say that it seems that there's a lot more pros to mandatory vaccinations for your children.
Yeah.
To protect not only your child, but the children that your child interacts with.
Yeah, of course.
So I would have to say pro mandatory vaccinations.
Yeah, I think we agreed on a pro. So this
Absolutely.
episode has been
Concluded
concluded with a pro for vaccines.